How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting and welcome back to Chaos Head. So, last episode's really interesting. We met a lot of weird stuff happened, but most importantly, we met a sword-wielding girl in the middle of the street at night. Aoi, I can't remember her full name, but she seemed like the third-year girl who was kind of more like how do you put it? Not uncouth, just more relaxed, more unkempt, maybe that's the word. But she's got the long blue hair. Very, very pretty. Very interesting to see who she is. She seems like she sees herself more like a heroic type. So Yua was like an investigator. We have a Fez girl who's like a singer and rock star who seems to be trying to send messages through her songs and through her soliloquies during her plays. And then this new girl almost looks like she's wandering around seeing herself as a kind of protector, because it felt like she was almost on patrol in Shibuya. But the weirder thing that happened is while we were on our way to school, Nanami suddenly got really confused and nearly walked right into a traffic, and there was a guy on the corner with a camera who was looking in that direction. And so I started speculating, was someone trying to orchestrate a tragedy? And why would they do that if it wasn't for internet clicks and fame? And if that's going to be some of the message here of, the toxic nature of internet, I don't know, what do you call them? Karma points or whatever. That's going to be really interesting, because whenever this game came out, it's only gotten worse. So it'd be really interesting if that is at least a sub-theme. I'm not sure what to expect of that. But other than that, I have no idea what's going to happen now. It seems like we are getting more and more introduced to some of the characters, or at least conceptually some of the characters, and we'll see how that progresses and what that's going to mean. I still feel like we're just in this massive setup where we don't even know the full cast yet of the people whom we are going to be spending a lot of time interacting with, and I'm curious to see how it's all going to play out and who they all are. I mean, we still haven't even learned anything more about the pink-haired girl, which is supposedly in the school somewhere. So I also think it's weird that we have a trend where all the girls that we're interacting with seem to be third-year girls. They're all a year older than us. So I wonder if we're going to have the underclassmen, maybe a friend of Nanami's or something, but I'm not sure. Anyway, other than that, I'm just excited to play and see how it goes. Thank you so much for joining me. I guess we'll get started. I'd continued to ignore Nanami until we got to school, upon which I ditched her to walk down the noisiest ever hallway towards my classroom. When walking down the hallway, stay along the edge. Don't walk too fast or too slow. Don't make eye contact with anyone. Those were the 3 rules I always followed. That was how I didn't stand out in school. I transformed myself into an existence akin to air itself. That was my secret to success.
Yo, Taku.
Yet people like him definitely made it hard for it to actually work. Catching up to me from behind, Misumi-kun greeted me in a normal, Orville-friendly fashion by clapping his hand on my shoulder.
Oisa!
You know what? For someone who absolutely hates his only friend as much as Taku does, this guy is really persistent at trying to befriend him.
挨拶ぐらいしろって。ま、お前がそういうやつだってのは分かってるけどよ。
Yeah.
なあ、この前 D 組の女子の話したよな。めったに学校来ねえけど、すげえ可愛い女子がいるって。
I kind of remember that vaguely. It's been a while.
Huh? その子、岸本綾瀬って名前なんだけどよ。
Kishimoto Ayase.
実は、その岸本に関して、すげえ発見したんだ。
Okay. Misumi-kun suddenly lowered his voice and looked around us. It was just going to be something vulgar, wasn't it? Already tired of his BS, I almost let out a sigh.
フェスいるだろ？フェス。
Right. But what he said made me bite it back.
その岸本ってのが、フェスなんだよ!
You seem real confident about that. He's probably right, but he seems absolutely confident.
俺マジビビったぜ。まさかフェスがうちの学校の生徒だなんてよ。しかも俺らとタメだってことだぜ。
Interesting. For whatever reason, Misumi-kun leaned his upper body out the window, then gazed up toward the sky with a look of pure ecstasy.
運命ってきっとこういうことを言うんだな。
Uh-huh. So he says he's a womanizer, and yet now it's like, oh, this is the one. This was the third floor. If he were to slip, he'd fall to the ground and break his neck, ending his life just like that. My anxiety steadily climbed as I watched him. Misumi-kun leaned farther and farther and farther out the window before switching his gaze down toward the entrance beneath it.
お、噂をすればなんとやらだタク。岸本を発見した。もうすぐここに来るぜ。
Okay. With so many coincidences piling up one after the other, maybe it really was fate, not that I cared.
よし、待ち構えてやる。見てろタク。俺のナンパ術ってのを見せてやるよ。
Oh, this isn't gonna go well. Also, nothing more attractive than ambushing people and calling them out about their, private life in the middle of school. Totally can't go wrong. He was brimming with self-confidence. Man, alpha males like him are really impressive. Picking up girls all the way, all that was completely different world from me. It wasn't even worth trying. This guy probably thinks he's an alpha. He's not, or at least not what actually an alpha is. He's an alpha as in the meme, where like you just believe hard enough that you deserve what you want and should take it for yourself, and that makes you alpha. But no, true alphas don't have to try. They just find with the way that their life is and are content with, the content making honest, good relationships. But like the name an alpha is so tainted now. Who wants that? I'd be insulted if someone came up to me and said, "Oh, we're such an alpha." Oh wow, you know what? She looks okay. This might just be me, but I think she's way cuter in the school outfit than she is in the goth outfit. I mean, it's fine. She's cute. She's got a cute design, but I think I like school version of her a lot more. A few moments later, Fez, or Kashimoto Ayase, appeared. It was just like Misumi-kun said. She really was Fez. I'm sure that while observing her from a safe distance, I couldn't believe she was in the same year as us. She was wearing a Suime uniform. A distinct aloofness came from her expression as she walked slowly down the hallway. It gave off a completely different impression than the one she'd had on stage. Back then, despite her apathetic tone, I'd felt a sense of power and liveliness emanating off of her. But now, the aura she gave off felt lidless and unapproachable. Ironically, she seems a lot like Taku in that sense. Maybe not, crippled by social anxiety, but she hardly attends school. It looks like she's just here just to go through the motions. Ignoring this, likely deliberately, Misumi-kun strolled over to her with the same over-friendly attitude he always had with me, then casually stopped right next to her.
Yo, Kishimoto-san. Oh, hayo.
Whoa, his smile was so invigorating despite being so obviously fake. I had no idea he was able to act like this around someone he barely knew. That's why we love him. That's why we admire him. Then again, I don't really want to be him.
あ、俺、三角大輔。よろしく。
Even the way he talks is like,
おっと、初対面とか思ってるだろう。でも違うんだな、これが。俺さ、こないだファンタズムのライブ行ったんだよね。だから、君に会うのは2度目。
That sounds like a threat.
で、その時君の歌声に、なんつうの？ビビってきちゃったんだ。別に俺、ミーハーとかじゃない。惹かれたのはさ、詩とか君の可愛さとか、そういうところもあるけど、でも何より一番すげえって思ったのは、やっぱバンドとしての完成度っつうか、あの音あっての君の歌声っつうの。
It's kind of funny because I see the tactic he's using here, where he casually mentions that he thinks that she's cute and that her voice is nice, but he also implies that it's not these things, which are kind of very surface level. It's saying that he likes the cooperation and the talent that she and her band have, which is much more appealing to an artist. But it feels super manipulative coming from you, because I feel like that's exactly what you're trying to do, is you're trying to convince her of a specific angle that's devious.
ちなみに俺も実はバンドやりたいなって思っててさ、よかったらああいういいバンドメンバーを見つけるコツとか、バンドの先輩としての心得みたいなもの教えてくんねえかな。
Interesting. Because that is a decent starting line because it would likely get her to talk about something she cares about. And that's a great way to introduce yourself to somebody is you don't talk to them, you don't tell them or try and like convince them to talk to you. You simply invite them to speak about something that they care about. And that's a great way to like start something. He's got talent. He understands how conversations work and like how to motivate people. But I have a feeling it's not going to work with her.
あ、今すぐじゃ迷惑だろうから。そうだな。放課後とか暇？どっかで二人きりでじっくり話さない？
Fairly smooth and going for a casual social interaction, though could be more intimidating. So jumping right into meeting after school is a bit much, perhaps. Also, like, I like his approach, but he's failed to notice that despite the fact that he's trying to like kind of keep things on the level, not be too pushy, he's also the only one talking, which is a bad sign. He should have slowed down and like tried to make room for her to give a response by now, I think. Musume-kun just kept talking with no breaks. His tone was different than usual, and it was obviously fake. Not only that, but he wasn't hitting on her directly, instead using the band angle in order to invite her somewhere nonchalantly. I'd never heard this fun fact about Musume-kun wanting to start a band before. It had to be a lie. He was willing to go that far in order to win some points or force a flag rather than obtaining it naturally. Well, I mean, force a flag is an interesting phrase because it's a video game phrase, but it's not really necessarily trying to force a flag. I think it's just a disarming one. It's approaching, like it's saying, it's pointing out here, like I said before, it's like approaching with the angle from a band, because it stops making it like I'm interested in you and starts being more of like, hey, we have a shared interest. He may not have mentioned wanting to start a band. It may not be a very big interest of his, but he may have considered it. I know I daydreamed about joining a musical group or starting a musical group. I was really inspired because I played violin, which I loved, but I really liked Yellow Card, the band, when I was in school. And just because I liked the way that they blended like kind of like alternative rock with like violin and cello. I just thought it was a neat concept, and I contemplated at the time, like, what would it be like to start a band that incorporated similar elements? Doesn't mean I ever actually was going to do that, or that I was so interested I would be willing to invest the time necessary to. But I could use that as a conversation starter because there was something there and I had put thought into it. So I don't think it's purely like a fun fact that's made up, but I imagine it's something that he's not actually planning to put any energy into at any point. But she just walks away. Fez didn't even so much as look at him. She simply continued to walk down the hallway at the same pace as if no sound had reached her ears. I mean, that's a good idea. So someone pointed out something last night. They said like when I did the delusion, like I should have done the good one because apparently like it's an interesting one. And it's like, part of me is like, maybe when it comes to like the girls being around, like doing a positive one, it might be more fun, but the negative ones are more interesting. Let's try a positive one.
なあ、聞いてる?
No, she's not. Suddenly, Fez stopped in her tracks. Her slightly lowered gaze slowly rose up, and then she looked at me. Ooh. Huh? Me? Come to think of it, the same thing had happened at the concert. It felt like that Fez was staring directly at me. Just in general, I'd been stared at by a whole bunch of freaky 3D girls over the past couple weeks. God, what the heck was going on? Why was I becoming popular now? Alright, so, positive delusion. If any of you are fans of Fez, here we go.
私、好きな人がいるのよ。
Oh gosh.
え？マジ？何何？それって俺のこと？
そこの人。
そこ？
Over where? Who is she talking about? She wasn't pointing anywhere, nor did she do anything that would clue us in as to who she was referring to. She just kept looking at me and only me. Wait, was the person she liked me? What?
この前、ライブに来てたわね。
Fez began to walk toward me, still refusing to avert her gaze. My surroundings became a buzz. Everyone was listening in on our unexpected conversation of Shibuya's famous strong songstress Fez.
いや、俺もライブに行って。
一目で悟ったわ。
Oh boy. Fez was listening to a single thing that Misumi-kun said. She grabbed my necktie with one hand and pulled me in close enough that I could clearly feel her breath against my skin. Alright, hello. That would work. I'd be like, you have my full attention. Hello. This was not a distance you could maintain with someone you were close friends with, nor was it one you should be shared between family members. It was a distance of a closeness reserved only for lovers.
君が私の運命の人だ。
Oh gosh. With nary even a smile, Fez slowly brushed my cheek with her fingertips. The sheer seductiveness of the gesture sent chills down my spine. I was entranced. Fez had me. I couldn't take my eyes off her.
決めたわ。私、君のお嫁さんになる。
Oh, fetch. That declaration was so far removed from the normal aloofness and decadence Fez always carried, and yet the sheer contrast between them proved unbearably cute. And people are cheering. Yeah, this is super delusion, and everyone clapped. Everyone around us was effectively throbbing with excitement upon hearing Fez's proposal to me. Misumi-kun was utterly mortified at losing to me. He came crashing down to his knees, crestfallen. It's playing like heroic music.
無視ですか?
This is a prime delusion right here.
嫌なの？
嫌じゃないです。
I felt like I was being swept away by a river of temptation. If I got to marry a beautiful girl like her, I wouldn't win a life right then and there. And thus became my heart-pounding love story with me and Fez. Reality time. Like that ever happened. While I was overheard drowning in my moronic delusion, Fez was murmuring something in a low voice, only to up and disappear soon after.
自信なくすぜ。くそ。
Uh-huh. Misumi-kun was sulking, having been completely and utterly disregarded. Considering how she was able to deter an alpha male of his caliber like he was no lower than a spur of his boot of hers, to deter him like that was nothing more than a typical monsieur. Like he was no more than a typical monsieur. Maybe the other team was what Fez would prefer, the true Yuri connoisseur. Archetype that refers to women that see other women as romantic interests. So, yeah, I mean, real life that does happen. I had a bit of like a... It's not, I don't want to call it a curse, but it was an unfortunate, repetitive thing. I had quite a string of crushes who I thought I was really, girls who I was really into and wanted to pursue, and 3 of them turned out to bat for the other team. I just didn't know that. So like having a crush on someone who swings for the that swings that way, it's like whatever. It's kind of like heartbreaking, but in a much softer way than being rejected for the sake of rejection. Because it's like, oh, it's like, you're just not interested at all, like, in any of this. And so it's like, okay, that's fine. But it's just, it felt odd how often I was able to, like, I for some reason, would, like, became so interested in girls who were just flat out not interested.
それはすごくいいスールです。
Especially if she was a lolly type character like Nanami. That's the stuff. Go, shut your face.
あんな不愛想な女。
Like, wait. He refers to his sister as a lolly type. That's gross. Like,
もう二度と相手にしてやるもんかよ。
it's just weird. Okay, it's like, and like the problem with connotation with lolly too is like, the problem with it is simply the idea of, you know, being drawn by people who look or are really young. Like the idea, like lolly's supposed to be this loophole. Like, oh, they're older, they just look really, really young. And it's weird because there are plenty of people who have features that might make them appear younger. And that's just who they are, the genetics they rolled. But people, it's become such a blanket term that now it's becoming problematic because it was, I think it was simply used as a cover for people who were attracted to really young people and try to like justify it. I mean, even the term comes from a source that essentially the whole story is about justifying being attracted to people who are way too young. But it just sucks because like the trope of and like the characters themselves, if they're like, as long as they are appropriate aged, is fine. It's just weird that we've now kind of conglomerated it all together, and now it's like, can you even say that about stuff like he's saying about his sister? Like, the way he's referring to her like that is very gross. Won't even bother trying again with her.
うぜえ。だいたい何が剣を見つけろだ。わけわかんねえ。
剣？
ああ、岸本がそう言ってただろ。剣を見つけろ。そうすれば救われるって。
Find a sword. If you do, you'll be granted salvation. Ooh. Salvation?
なあ、ターク。ファンタズムの歌にそんな歌詞でもあるのか？
A sword. Could that possibly be referring to that mic stand that she'd been using during the concert? Come to think of it, there'd been another person a couple days ago that interrogated me about a sword. Yep. That Senna girl. The one who was absolutely terrifying. She was awesome, you mean? I'd actually thought she was going to slice me in two. The sword she'd been carrying was different shaped than the one Fez had, but they had similar aura about them. Could the two of them be connected somehow? I didn't know. There was way too much crap I didn't know. Let's go find a sword. Shogun. The demon girl. Yua. Fez. Senna. Swords. As was my old habit, I jotted down a list of all the things I didn't know enough about in my head. I'd meant to put myself as one final item on the list, but I decided against it. I was completely normal. It was the stuff happening around me that wasn't. That was the most obvious conclusion. I don't know, man. I'd put myself down. Today, I'd put myself down. Was Fez my ally or my enemy? It would be nice to know at least that much. Problem was, I didn't have the courage to ask her. So whatever it is about these swords that they're tied, these people are recognizing that he somehow can be connected to the same thing they are. So whatever it is that's going on, they recognize him as like an upcoming like awakening individual, someone who's been chosen. Today I headed straight for Anime Light without stopping at that cafe. Animite, not Anime Light, Animite. The reason, of course, was to finally pick up my long-awaited Bloodtoon figure, Seiratan, post-awakening version. While I was in checkout, Yua's face crossed my mind for a second, but I cut off those thoughts immediately. I glanced at the Seiratans that were set up on display in order to attract customers, but since the sculptor was Kijimi Yoshio, not a single word needed to be said about their quality. I had to get home fast so I could enjoy her every nook and cranny as soon as possible. As long as I could admire Seiratan's face every now and then while I played ESO, I was content. So why did the entire third dimension do nothing but bring me trouble? It plagued me even now. I headed straight for my base in high spirits, forgetting all about Fez and the swords and whatever else, and practically skipping the entire way home. Uh-oh. 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 This is bad. When I was about 50 meters away, I encountered two men who carried an unmistakably abnormal air about them. I attempted to pass them by without making eye contact, but they were very clearly watching me.
そこの君、ちょっといいかい?
The first of the two to call out to me was a dull older man, one that looked like he belonged in a cycling racetrack gambling his life away. His hair was a mess and his unshaven beard was somehow worse. He wore a worn-out old suit, sloppy necktie, dress shoes that didn't show a trace of being cared for. All of it came together to form an unparalleled example of a man who'd failed to get ahead in life. For some reason, the fact that he was flapping a fan at himself only served to further emphasize how pathetic he looked. His expression was similarly languid, his mouth curled into a flippant smile. And yet, when our eyes met for a split second, I knew that he wasn't really smiling. There was nowhere to run. As I searched for something to reply to them with, the two men made their way up to me.
おじさん、こういうものなんだけどさ。
The older man took out a black badge from his suit and held out toward me. It was the same kind of police badge you'd see in various TV shows, but it was obvious the first time I'd ever seen a real one. They'd finally come for me. They could only be here for one thing, the crucifixion case.
ちょっと話を聞かせてもらっていいかい?
Oh boy. Oh, Taku. Oh boy.
もちろん強制じゃないんだけどね。あ、いやいや、そんな身構えなくていいよ。 本当話聞くだけだから。
The way he spoke didn't show any trace of trying to intimidate me. The other younger detective, however, wore a strict expression as he nonchalantly moved to block my path. So, I'm not sure rules in Japan, but it's interesting because they're doing an unofficial approach where they're trying to gather information. But even if they don't Mirandize you, as long as you're not in their custody, they're allowed to interview you, and if you're in the United States, that stuff can be used to gather probable cause. It gets blurry on whether or not it's admissible in court, but since they are in an official function and they've shown their badge, essentially it does mean that they're kind of in like gathering information mode. And even if you are 100% innocent, because it can be easy to accidentally get stepped into a crime and be accused of something, and that accusation alone can disrupt your life, especially if they like you are being targeted, and like as in targeted as in like they're so confident it's you that they're trying to prove it. It's just best in general to say like, I don't know, talk. You're allowed obviously to talk and for questions, but if you feel like they're specifically targeting you, you can stop it at any point. Be like, no, I'd rather not talk unless you're like, you have to be like, are you formally detaining me? Are you formally arresting me? And then as soon as they indicate that might happen, you just say like, I don't want to answer anything else until I have a lawyer present. But again, that's America. Not sure where you live, how that would work. Blood started running down my neck. If I made any wrong moves, they'd likely suspect me of being the culprit and haul me down to the station right then and there. I didn't want that to happen to him. I don't know if I said happen right there, but okay. I resigned myself, then gave a small nod.
君さ、俗に言うニュージェネレーションの狂気って知ってるかな?
I knew it. I wiped the beads of sweat off my forehead, then gave him a nod in reply.
じゃあ3番目に起きた通称貼り付け殺人事件も当然知ってるよね。この近所で起きたわけなんだけども、その目撃者を探してるわけよ。あ、ちなみに君、名前聞かせてくれる?
A gulp forced itself down my throat. This wasn't some bait and switch crap, was it? Or maybe they were a bunch of con men who were only acting like policemen, while in reality we were just mining my personal information so they could put it all to ill use. They could even be the demon girl's underlings.
あれ、答えてくんないのかな?
If they started to suspect me, there'd be no end to it. What should I do? If I gave them a fake name, they might arrest me immediately.
ああ、個人情報保護法とか気にしてる? おじさんそんなに信用なさそうに見えるかな?
Yeah, unfortunately, you kind of do. I'll say. Either way, his friendly way of speaking had to be just an act.
Nishijo, Takumi.
In the end, I figured there was no way around it, that it was in my best... Sorry, I don't know why I clicked there. It was in my best interest to answer honestly.
西条匠くんでいいかい?
I shook my head.
本当に?
Huh? What was that supposed to mean? I had purposely given him my real name, so what the heck was that reaction?
いや、これは失礼。今のは気にしないでくれ。
I haven't seen the word skosh in a while. That's fun to see. The detective's unnatural laughter rang throughout the quiet residential area. Ugh, just hurry up and let me go already.
その制服、水明だよね。何年生?
Did I have to answer that stuff like that?
悪いね。聞き取れなかった。おじさん、もう年だから耳遠くてさ。もう一度言ってくれる?
2年生。
ああ、2年生ね。どうも。で、西条さん。聞きたいことってのは、先月の29日の午後6時から10時頃にかけて、どこで何してたかなんだわ。
Why were they asking me for my alibi? Did that mean they suspected me? That's ridiculous.
いや、別に君を疑ってるわけじゃなくてさ。その時間にこの近くにいたなら、怪しい人物を見かけたとか、何か音を聞いたとか。It's
a decent response, but they like it's like this is a good reminder too. Another thing just to keep in mind, no matter where you are, there's nothing that says the police have to be truthful about you. They don't have to tell you anything that's real at all. That's actually why it's important to get legal counsel, is because even if they bring you to interrogate you and they bring you in for questioning, they can flat out just lie. They'll use tactics to try and put pressure on you to make you feel like you have to tell them stuff. A good example being like, hey, we have another person in the room and they're saying that you did this and they saw you do it. They don't have to actually have somebody do that, but if they can make you feel like that you're going to get blamed for it if you don't speak up and tell the truth of what you saw, then you can speak what you saw. Like, there's no reason why they can't lie to you. And that's kind of what he's doing here. He's lying to him and saying, oh, we don't suspect you at all. He absolutely suspects him because he was there in the footage. So they're just trying to milk information out of him as best they can. It's like, it sucks because like it does help police successfully like solve cases, but it feels like so scummy how they have to do it. And like, I wish it didn't have to be that way, but I also know for a fact that without these types of tactics, they would struggle to solve any crimes. For some reason, the way the guy talked was really starting to get to me. Maybe talking in a way that deliberately agitated the subject was some kind of interrogation technique? Kind of. Of course, I had seen someone suspicious. I'd seen someone very clearly with my own two eyes. But I wasn't sure if it would be a good idea to tell that to the shady old guy. What would I do if I told him and the demon girl came back for revenge? It seemed like the demon girl was letting me run free for now, but she still had Shogun on her side, and he was equipped with progenitive powers, so by that logic, that must have meant the demon girl had some sort of insane power as well. I was also just wondering, like, where's that cross gone? Did Yua keep it? As long as it's not in our house, it's probably okay, but I'd be worried that they, like, popped up to inspect our little bunker room, and they found that there. That'd be bad. And if that was true, and I told the police about it, she might find out about it immediately because of her clairvoyance or whatever, and then she'd come to kill me right after.
なあ、西条くん。今日はそんなに暑いか?
What? My heart rate skyrocketed. If I stayed silent like this, they would absolutely suspect me being a criminal, but at the same time, I was scared if I lied and said I didn't see anything that they'd see right through me. The older man fanned me a couple times with a fan, a cool breeze rustling my hair. Oh, right, the sweating.
もうすっかり秋だ。汗かくほど暑いとは思えんけどな。まあ、体質ってのは人それぞれだしな。
Oh my gosh. Ironic, considering he was the one walking around with a fan, but he was right. It wasn't all that hot out today. It was perfect actually. The kind of temperature you'd actually enjoy spending some time in. I'd wiped the sweat off my forehead with my sleeve countless times now.
僕はやってない。
おー。
The look in his eyes shifted. I realized I'd slipped up, but I had no idea what exactly had tipped him off.
何をやっていないんだ?
They definitely suspected me. I had to answer honestly. Staring at the manhole cover right beneath my feet, I began to blurt out everything.
見たんです。貼り付けの現場、そこに女がいたんです。で、血まみれにして死体の前に杭がたくさん死体に突き刺さってて、あれ500本は絶対超えてた。異常だ。死体がハリネズミみたいになってて、女は僕を見てよかったって笑ってた。あの女は悪魔だ。人間じゃない。ニュージェネの母には人を超えた存在なんだ。ヨシとかすごい超能力とか使う。
They're like, what the fetch are you saying? Upon saying that much, I realized the two detectives are staring at me with their eyes wide. Maybe they didn't believe me. Thinking that, I clamped my mouth shut.
悪魔か。なるほどね。そいつは参考になったよ。
本当です。
ああ、分かってる分かってる。貴重な情報だよ。
僕を警察で守ってください。
その前にその女の年は分かる。服装とか顔の特徴とか。
水明。
水明って水明学園？
その制服着てた。
つまり西条くんと同じ学校の生徒か。
After simmering on that for a moment, the old man grinned. Then he muttered something that could only be either an actual question or to him just mumbling to himself.
何年生だろうな、その女子高生は。何年生だと思う、西条くん。
わからない。
じゃあ、なんて名前だと思う？
わからないよ。僕はあの悪魔の名前なんて知らない。
その女の身長、体重、あとついでに3サイズについては。
Why? What was up with this old man? Was he screwing with me? How was I supposed to know even a single one of those? Did he think I could instantly get all those measurements from a single glance? Oh yeah, sure, I absolutely had the stupid power. Oh wait. Oh, I didn't? Fetch, because this wasn't a gosh darn rom-com mega.
なるほど。黙ってるってことはわからないってことだね。結構。参考になったよ。これは本部に戻って検討しないといかんな。
先輩、マジっすか？
He's like, why aren't we bringing him in? Waving his hand to silence the dumbfounded younger detective, the older man signaled something to him with his eyes.
西条くん、ちなみに連絡先とか教えてもらえる？
なんで？
I knew they wouldn't believe me. They wanted to label me some nut job and falsely accuse me of everything.
ああ、だって悪魔だっけ？そいつから君を守らなくちゃならないだろ？
Oh, so that's why he'd asked. Oh, thank goodness, they actually believed me. If I could get the police to protect me, it would be incredibly reassuring. Yes, the enemy was a demon, so the police would only get one shot if they were up against her, but it was better than being unarmed. Oh, Taku, you fool. They still think it's you, because the demon certainly sounds like an excuse. Feeling slightly relieved, I took out the phone I'd bought a few days prior and showed him my phone number. The younger detective scribbled it down in his notebook.
いや、忙しいところありがとうさ。君の身の安全は警察が保証するから、何の心配もしなさんな。
What do they think? I need to know what they're thinking, because I'm genuinely not sure what his, like, what's his approach? Like, how does he feel like this is, like, okay place to end?
じゃあ、また何か聞きたいことができたら電話するかもしんないんで、その時はよろしくね。イルスとか使わないでくれよ。今のところ警察にとっては君は重要な人物だからな。
Oh boy.
君の目撃証言は事件解決の重要な手がかりになりそうだ。じゃあな。
The two detectives bowed their heads and promptly took off. That's the thing, though. Like, if that's real, it's weird because, like, if he is a key witness, you'd want to lock him down. You'd want to get him in interview to get, like, his statements recorded and established. So you'd want to take him down for questioning. If you think that he's lying and that he did it, you'd probably want to detain him, to ask him questions formally and prepare to put him in prison if you think that there's a legitimate case there. Both instances, I think it would be best to take him down to the station, but he's choosing not to. The only thing I can think of that would justify that decision is that the detective's understanding that he's really freaking out, and that if you detained him, you might just lock him up. Like, not lock him up, but like mentally lock him up, and that he will no longer be helpful. So by doing a softly approach, you might be able to gain his trust and actually get some useful information out of him rather than a story about a demon. Maybe that's what his angle is going for here. After taking a glance at me over his shoulder, the young detective whispered something to the older one. The older man paid him no mind and simply continued to walk. The other thing I guess you could say is that, like, I feel like knowing the strength necessary to do it, because I remember I said this way back in that episode, like, the ability to pick up a corpse, whether alive or not, especially if it was alive, but especially if it even not, to be able to lift a corpse off the ground and to stake them to the wall, like, to get that process started to the point where it could be, like, suspended on the wall, would take an incredible level of strength. Strength I'm confident Taku just does not have. In fact, I would assume, based on what you saw at the murder scene, that most likely it was a group of people, because otherwise how could that have possibly, like, happened? So maybe that's the angle he's going for. He's saying, like, he looks at Taku, he looks at his demeanor, looks at his physique, and is like, you know, I just don't see you being capable of that. There's more to this, or at least, like, you're more likely just a witness rather than a participant. I let out a long, long sigh. That was intense. It was the first time I'd ever been questioned by actual detectives. I'd acted pretty suspicious without meaning to, but they'd believe me anyway, somehow. God, I'd give anything for the police to arrest the demon girl. Then again, the police didn't have any special power, so maybe I should keep my expectations low. I then noticed that my mouth had gone incredibly dry without me realizing, so I redirected myself to the nearest vending machine and got myself a cola. Are we gonna hear the officer's take finally? Because I'm dying to know what their thought process was. Nope, guess not.
覚醒バージョン残すエロすぎパンモノじゃんかだがそれがいい
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. By the way, his monitor background, I feel like it's changed. I don't know if that's just like an aesthetic thing, something I'm just barely noticing like now, or if there's something weird going on there, because it definitely looks like phasey, like something different's happening. Anyway, so yeah, sure, full panty sight. Woo!
顔かわいいよ顔原作再現度はいまいちだけどプンプンと漂うエロスが木島義雄らしさだよなこれはこれでグッジョブ
GJ, good job. He calls him my lord. GJ, using the internet as expression of admiration for a job well done. I feel like I've never seen someone use GJ like that. But yeah, he's like, refers to him as my lord.
上着キャストオフとかこの角度からじゃほとんど全裸にしか見えんよ
Oh, brother. It's really odd. It's really odd. I guess if you've had no experience, like just like a little peaks or little implications or super like can get you all jazzed up. It's like people are people, naked or not. It's like I don't know. It's more about like the setting and like what they want and like that. Like if you have a mutual feelings for each other, that's where the like real true like eroticism and intimacy comes from. Not just seeing skin. I mean, everyone essentially is just flaps of meat. Like, now some of us look more attractive than others, sure, but ultimately, when push comes to shove, we're all just people. We're made of the same types of bits and all that.
髪の動きがいいよな覚醒バージョンは髪が命って持論があるわけだが間違ってなかったなさてそれではお待ちかねパンツいってみようかどれどれ
Oh my gosh, this dude. He's like a goblin.
V ゾーンの作り込みいいよシワのつき方リアルだし
Oh my gosh.
おおこれスージーさんすげえマジですげえクオリティ高すぎ
Oh, I haven't seen awesome sauce in a while. A word to use to express excitement or appreciation on the internet, very high compliment. But this dude, I want to slap him right now. Calm down.
これセーラタン5作目にして早くも最高傑作爆誕じゃねえこれ以上すごいのなんて出せないってマジでやっぱ木島は神
Is that the new figure right there? I carefully stood my new Sierra Tad next to my monitor. Sierra, you're so sexy. Simply looking over at her made me grin uncontrollably. Life was good. I logged on and immediately started posting my impression of the new Sierra Tad figure on @channel. When I finished doing that, I went to check my email, then checked to see if any of my friends on FreePara had posted any updates.
おっと前触れ申請来てるじゃん
Oh no.
誰これセーラコミュの人かはいはいゲイですよ
Oh no. Now then, time for ESO. But the very second I thought of that, yeah, so like, my rule of thumb, by the way, if it's happened a few times, and I definitely just ignore it, and I like if you're listening to this, here's why. I don't accept friendship from people because I have a public-facing part of the internet. So if I use an account, like the account I use to run the Discord, or like this YouTube channel, basically if you ever see like the name, like TheBlueShifting, it's probably me, because I usually use that for signing on to stuff, but I also typically won't accept friendships if it allows for lines of communication. Why is that? Well, safety. I don't have a massive channel, but the stuff I do now, I need to live and run like the YouTube channel, my socials, like I do have a massive audience. Because what if someday I do, I don't know, hit that algorithm just right and I see an explosive level of growth? I don't want it to be something I have to go back and trowel through and try and erase any potential like bad connections or gaps in my own personal defenses per se. So I don't ignore your friend requests because I'm malicious. It's because I don't like. There's a level of contact and the ability to screen becomes much like less capable as that happens. So usually I only will accept friendship on sites with people whom I've had like significant interaction with, whom I feel I can trust. And even then, I'm sure that's going to bite me someday. But don't see it as like, oh, I'm trying to dismiss you. There's a lot of people who I've interacted with a lot whom I don't allow to have linked friendships to my accounts. And then I have my own personal accounts and I keep those private. I don't share links or information with those to anything because, again, I have a small following, but I need to be prepared if that ever changes. Probably won't, but it's internet safety 101. Just make sure that you're protecting yourself with layers of defenses. I have lots of high complexity passwords, and then each of my major accounts has completely different passwords that don't share any connection between them because I don't want to have a critical failure in my internet protections. If something goes down, I don't want to domino into like a dozen other things going down. Because that's one of the sad things. Like I've seen some pretty big channels get almost obliterated by scams and like phishing schemes, and someday it's probably gonna happen to me. I just want to try and be prepared for that day. Anyway, moving on. I felt chills on the nape of my neck. It was the gaze, complete with its usual and intense presence. Whose eyes are those eyes? Delusion time. This is not the time. When I had first started feeling the gaze, I'd long since forgotten. It's shattered its way into each and every part of my life, bothering the crap out of me all the way. There was a whole lot of things that disturbed my peace, but the gaze was right up there with Nanami, and the most irritating thing I had to deal with. Guys, this is interesting. If I do a positive delusion now, it's probably going to be a Saratan, like, hyper invasion of our privacy. If I do a negative one, I might get some insight into what this thing is. If I do nothing, I can see him being the bravest and potentially confronting this feeling, whatever it is. Alright, I think I'm going to skip the delusion this time. Fine then, let's do it. It'll take more than that to make me turn around game. Still fixated on my monitor, I tried thinking of some cool lines you'd hear in a manga.
貴様、出てこい。僕の目をごまかせるとでも思ったか。甘いな。
There was no response, but why would there be? Heck, I'd be much more terrified if there had been. Oh no. I heard something. Upon hearing it, I immediately whipped around. I'd lost today's no turning around game. There was no one else in the room. Was that just a hallucination? Please be a hallucination. From the bottom of my heart, that's all I hoped for. It came again. It was the sound again. It couldn't weasel my way out of this. It was the sound of someone knocking on my door from outside. In other words, someone was here. Practically no human beings ever came to visit me. Even newspaper salesmen wouldn't bother getting up on the roof. All I could think of was a delivery guy? I don't know. Yua knows? Nanami knows? No, I wasn't supposed to be getting any packages today. Nanami? No, Nanami would be so much more obnoxious. She'd be banging on the door screaming, "Break, bro, open up!" making my eardrums bleed. Yua? Chances of that were high. She'd been in my base once before. Had the demon girl ordered her to come and kill me? But if that were true, why would she bother knocking? The knocking sound continued. I was completely frozen in place trying to figure out what to do, but I couldn't come up with a single good idea that quickly. I started freaking out more and more. Wait, I could just pretend like I wasn't home. Or was that being too cautious? No, there was no such thing right now. Shibuya had gotten incredibly dangerous recently, after all. If it was Yua, there's absolutely no way I could let her in. If I did, it'd be pretty much asking to get killed. On a related note, was my door locked? I started in the direction of the door, but thanks to the darkness, I couldn't see very well. I slowly got up and tiptoed toward the door, being careful not to make a sound.
Huh.
When I reached the center of the room, I finally knew for sure. The door wasn't locked. Chills assaulted my entire body. My heartbeat increased rapidly. My anxiety shot up along with it. I'd forgotten to lock the gosh darn door. If someone would just waltz right in right now and stab me in the back, I would have no right to complain. I had to lock it fast. If I made a sound, they'd immediately find out I was just pretending to not be home, but that was far better than letting them get inside. Man, they're persistent. I was about to bolt toward the door when... Oh, backstabbed by my depressingly dirty room. I accidentally stepped on an empty box lunch that had fallen to the floor. I slipped to almost a comical degree and landed hard on my butt. The extreme pain made me moan in silent agony. And then, right before my eyes, the door slowly began to open. I didn't know who it was, but whoever had been knocking was now opening the door of their own accord. I tried to get up, but the pain kept my body from listening to me. All I could do was stare with teary eyes as the door opened. The first thing I saw was a hand, then a sleeve that was clearly from a Sueme uniform. Next I saw hair, a little longer than Nanami's, but shorter than Yua's. I didn't know who it was. The hair stirred, and the last thing I saw was a face suddenly peeking into the room. Oh no! Oh no! That was when I finally realized who it was. A person I never would have expected. The worst possible plot twist. Feelings of intense despair threatened to steal over every bit of hope away from me. The demon girl. I thought it'd be Yua. Never would have thought the demon girl herself would come marching in. Our eyes met, and right as they did, the demon girl smiled with glee. Her smile sent chills down my spine. Oh, fetch, oh, fetch, oh, fetch! Her hand hidden by the door had been gripping one of those cross-shaped stakes. It had to be. She'd finally come to kill me. She was gonna kill me as she laughed and laughed at pure ecstasy. It had to be because of the detectives I talked to. She'd seen me do it with her clairvoyance. Don't kill me. I tried to scream, but I was too terrified to make a sound. Don't strike that pose! You were just covered in blood last time I saw you. Tilting her neck to the side, the demon girl unleashed a strange incantation. I had to be some demonic tongue. She was cursing me. In hopes of gaining as much distance as possible from her, I frantically started to crawl backward on my butt, my hands sliding countless times on random garbage scattered across the floor as I scrambled to the furthest thing away from her, my computer desk. Oh my gosh, this girl. Trying to separate the fact that she was involved in any way to the staking incident. She's way too go-lucky happy. What is her deal? The demon girl began encroaching further upon my territory. She even politely took off her shoes. Okay. She just shuts the door! The door closed, my escape route had been cut off. However, despite what I thought earlier, the demon girl was only carrying a bag. Didn't see anything resembling a deadly weapon. Wait, that just meant it was inside her bag. It had to be. I had to be extremely careful. The second I let my guard down, she'd swoop in and end me, or maybe she already had with that curse she placed on me a minute ago. In a few days, my entire body would suddenly start spewing blood everywhere, and I'd die right then and there. I got down on my hands and knees and cradled my head between my arms. Those gosh darn detectives had come completely fetched me over. It was a lie meant to buy me some time. The older detective had said he'd guaranteed my safety. If he was doing his job properly, he would have sent at least one officer over to my place. Upon thinking that, I suddenly realized I'd given the old man my phone number, but I hadn't given him my address. What? Suddenly, the demon girl assumed a pose resembling a salute. And what was just as, if not more strange, was that she said, gosh darn it, I keep right-clicking. Almost sounded like a sound effect. Was it a demonic curse? Okay. What? Was she trying to play dumb? Or was this her roundabout way of threatening me? In an actuality, she was saying, forget the truth, act as if nothing ever happened. What the heck was she thinking? How did she come here to kill me? Oh boy. The demon girl walked toward me, then slowly reached out her hand. Her expression was so gentle, and now that I was seeing her up close, she was actually pretty cute. She was letting me get to me. Stop acting like an idiot! Was I seriously calling a demon pretty cute? She was a murderer. She used Yuya and Shogun to trap me, and now she'd come to finish me off herself. Don't trust her. I had already learned my lesson back with you. I'd never make the same mistake again. I refused to take her hand. Don't be deceived by the demon girl's smile. She was a demon trying to tempt me, and if I gave in to that temptation, I'd die. Trust no one. Don't believe anything. Don't believe anything anyone says.
だって見たんだ。
I'm definitely a little confused too, because it's like it's depicting this as if she is a real person. She might be. She might not be. I genuinely thought she wasn't. I thought she was a figment of his imagination, like a Sierra Tan, like superimposed to kind of stand in for. I thought, he was having like a dissociative personality where he was going out and committing the murders, and that the dissociative personality he like personified was her. So she's physically here, opening the door, coming in, saying hi. So she's a person. So what is that all about?
お前が人を殺してるとこ。
あのさ、タク。それ、かなりひどいこと言ってるって気づいてる？
Look at that pose. I was like, why does you sound familiar? What voice actor have you been? You sound familiar. So I think someone might have mentioned it, but I can't recall right now.
まさか殺人犯呼ばわりされるなんてね。ははは。
So she kind of sounds like us. She has her own like weird laugh. What is she gonna do with me?
NewGen の
Just like with the guy in the fourth case, was she gonna...
殺すんでしょう。それとも岩とか将軍とかがいる場所に連れてって。
ユア？将軍？誰それ？
Maybe the three of them had decided to work together. That way I wouldn't be able to fight back when they would beat me to death.
そんなのやだ。助けて。
じゃあね、私を殺人犯扱いしなければ助けてあげる。
I'll promise to help you as long as you stop treating me like a murderer. So that was her true goal.
そんなビビらないでよ。いちいち私がへこむようなリアクションしてくれるよね。
お願いだ。もう二度と誰にも喋らないから。だから見逃して。
もしもーし。タク、ちょっと落ち着こう。
How does she know our name? This bee acting like we're close or something, calling me Taku and crap? Wait, actually, how did she know my name? She'd already known it back when we first met at the crucifixion crime scene. How did she know it? And also, how did she know where my base was?
当然でしょ。
How is she hearing your thoughts? What the fetch? Maybe, was I right? Is she a figment of our imagination?
あなたの名前を知ってるのは。
What? Had she just read my mind? I knew she was clairvoyant. She knew my name, my address, all because she'd used her powers on me.
タクって結構独り言多いよね。
Oh my gosh, is that you? So was I right? Is this her? Is she just him? A reflection of him?
前から思ってたことだけど。
Oh, how long has she been talking? Wait, have I been talking to myself out loud just now? I hadn't been aware of that at all. Was that really true? Had I really been talking to myself out loud, or was it possible she was just lying to me and in actuality she read my mind?
タクの名前を知らないわけないよ。私、物覚えはそんなに良くない方だけど。
But...
友達の名前くらい覚えるよ。
Okay. But we don't know who the heck you are! Friends?
それともタク、私のことバカにしてる？そりゃ私、テストの点数はそんなに良くないけど。
What is happening?
面と向かってそういうこと言われると傷ついちゃうな。
What? Was someone here crazy? Yes! All of us are crazy! All three of us here! Who was it? Me? Her? Me!
もしかして転校生？
そういえば近いうちに転校生が来るらしいよ。スカチン先生が言ってた。
There were two different conversations going on here. My terror from earlier, together with the anxiety of having no idea where I'd get killed, was starting to fade. But rushing in to replace it with a completely new kind of dread, slithering in to slowly erode my mind.
もしもし？その顔はまさか、まだ信じてくれてない？
誰だ？
Who are they? A murderer? A demon girl? That was who.
タクこそクラスメートの顔を覚えてないんだ。ひどー。
Is she actually in our class? What? Did she say classmate? So we weren't just friends, but classmates too.
でもまあ、しょうがないか。タクはあんまり学校来ないもんね。だからって、私の存在丸ごとなかったことにするのはどうかと思う。
What's happening?
ちなみに、名前も忘れちゃってるわけかな。はいはい、そうなのね。ショック。
Okay.
じゃあ、思い出させてあげますよっと。私は、崎畑リミ。
Sakihata Rimi. Maybe it's kind of cute. What is happening?
リアクションなしかい。崎畑リミ。思い出した？
No? I hadn't never heard the name before. Besides, other than Yua, I'd never met a 3D girl who talked to me like we were this close in my life. And Yua was the demon girl's underling? Wait, that was it. What the girl calling herself Sakihata was doing right now was exactly the same as what you had done. This temptress knew I wasn't used to interacting with 3D girls, so she was attempting to lead me to a trap by behaving all friendly and trying to seduce me. The same exact strategy. And the thing is, while I barely remember my classmates' faces at all, and I didn't plan to either, I could say with absolute certainty that I'd never seen this girl's face in the same classroom as me before. Probably. Dang it, couldn't completely rule it out. After all, whenever I was at school, I was usually glued to my desk until the final bell, pretending to sleep, having delusions, staying at my desk, or feigning reading my textbook. Didn't do anything else. I had next to no memory of my classmates' names and faces, so I didn't even try to remember any. Which was it? Was she telling me the truth, or was it all a lie? No, it didn't matter whether or not we were classmates, because the one thing I knew for sure, the one hard, indisputable fact, was that she'd committed murder.
たく、記憶力ゼロ？まあいいや。じゃあ、大臣に聞いてみて。
What? Who? Daichin? Who the heck was that? Was that a person or some sort of secret code? Another demonic incantation?
大臣だよ、大臣。三角大輔。
Oh. She knew Misumi-kun's name, and not only that, but she was calling him Daichi? She wouldn't call him that unless they were really close.
というわけで、はい。
The demon girl quickly zeroed in on my cell phone that I had left lying on the sofa, picked it up, and held it out to me. It seemed like she wanted me to try calling Misumi-kun. I didn't like using phones, but she might kill me if I went against her orders. Driven by fear, with no other choice, I went to call him. Only to realize I didn't know his phone number. Upon seeing me freeze up in confusion, the demon girl tilted her head in confusion once again. Then, after a moment, she came up beside me and poured over my shoulder at the screen. Her hair swayed as she moved, sending a pleasant fragrance of shampoo drifting down the tip of her nose. Of my nose. No, she's a demon. I'll never let her seduce me. Wait, seducing you is wearing shampoo. Oh, Jesus, dude. Lend me your power, Sierra-tan.
もしかして、番号知らない？だったら先にそう言ってくれなきゃ。ごめんごめん。
You know it off the top of your head. With a light apology, the demon girl snatched my phone from his hand, her fingers grazing mine for a fleeting moment. They were warm. Guess both demons and humans had the same blood running through their veins.
大臣の番号はね、ほいほいほいの。
The demon girl entered his number without a hitch. It was clear she'd dialed it many times before.
ほーい、つながった。
She held the cell phone out to me with a smile. Not knowing what else to do, I ended up taking it for no real reason and putting it up to my ear. I heard the sound of the phone ringing. Eventually, that sound stopped. It was replaced with the voice of Misumi-kun.
Hi. Oh.
They didn't give their name. It sounded like they were downtown or something, as I could hear a bunch of noise coming through the receiver. I really hated phones. I had no idea whether or not it was Misumi-kun on the other end. The voice sounded like his, but I also had a strange feeling that something was slightly different about it.
Taku, Daichin deta?
This time, the demon girl peered at me from right in front of me. Shoot, she was way too close. I turned my back to her and steeled myself.
Nishi.
Oh, Taku ka.
Wait, wasn't that a bit strange? How had he figured out it was me that quickly? I hadn't even gotten halfway through my name yet.
言い慣れない番号だったから誰かと思ったぜ。お前、もしかして携帯買ったのか?
Huh. For example, there was a possibility the demon girl had made a phone call to someone who only sounded like Misumi-kun. Maybe this person who sounded like Misumi-kun was like another underling of hers and was only pretending to be Misumi-kun in order to trick me. Oh my gosh, this dude, like, I kind of get it, but at the same time, it's like listening to those like conspiracy theorists on like YouTube, where it's just like, calm down, dude. There's usually a better explanation. Occam's razor. Maybe the demon girl already knew that I didn't know Misumi-kun's phone number, and so she'd been leading up to this all the time. I was starting to doubt anything and everything. I didn't know what was true and what was a lie. Hold on, what the kind of trap was the demon girl trying to make me fall into anyway? Why bother with a trap this elaborate? In any situation like this, wouldn't it be easier and quicker for her to just go ahead and kill me already? Or was there some reason behind it? Some kind of prerequisite saying she had to trick me, even if it meant taking it this slow? No, maybe it was some hidden camera type thing spearheaded by Misumi-kun. The girl wasn't actually my classmate, but Misumi-kun's girlfriend, and he'd sent her here in order to screw with me. That's fetching if. If that were the case, how the heck would I explain everything that had happened at the crucifixion crime scene?
で、タク、なんか用か? お前から連絡してくるなんて珍しいこともあるもんだな。ま、俺としては野郎からの電話なんてあんま嬉しくねえんだけどな。
Haha, sure. His tone of voice sounded exactly like Misumi-kun's. The more I heard, the more convinced I was the person on the other end had to be him.
女の口説き方でも教えてもらいたいのか?
Oh, yeah, sure, because we've seen you do real well on that.
なわけねえか。
Should I start talking? I sensed the gaze on my back. The girl was staring at me. The chills on the back of my neck still hadn't gone away. What kind of expression was the demon girl making? I wanted to turn around to see for myself, but I was too scared.
用がねえなら切るぞ。お前の無言電話に付き合ってるほど暇じゃねえんだ。今、女と一緒だからよ。だからなんだよ。用があるなら早く言って。なんだよ。早く言えって。
うちのクラス。
ああ、うちのクラスがどうした？
いる？
何が？
女子。
Yeah.
咲畑って名前の。
Despite steadily becoming more and more incoherent, I somehow managed to explain myself. Suddenly, Misumi-kun stopped responding. Silence. However, I could still hear the noise of the city around him, so the call hadn't disconnected or anything. Why wasn't he talking? What was that? The next thing I heard was an extremely exaggerated sigh.
お前さ、ゲーム脳じゃねえの?
Gamer brain. A theory that claims people who play video games experience a chronic decline in emotional restraint and judgment due to a condition similar to dementia. This theory stems from the recorded measurements showing that the brains of those who played video games emit extremely low levels of beta waves compared to that of normal humans. It was widely publicized by the mass media and became a social issue for a period of time, but there were too many ambiguities presented in the study, such as the methodology used to measure brain waves, leading some to doubt its credibility. Yeah, apparently, because I don't even know what that's talking about. That was a real thing. I've never heard of it before. I might, like, look that up, actually, like, when this is over. Gamer brain. Because, like, that can't be real, right? Alright, apparently it popped up something on Google, so I'll look it up later. Where'd that come from? And not only was it completely out of left field, but he'd brought up that bullcrap condition that had been conned despite having no scientific backing whatsoever.
一瞬考えちまったよ。先旗なんて名字で言うからよ。それってリミのことだろ。
How?
お前、いくら三次元の女に興味ねえからって、あいつのことまで忘れるか？俺はともかく、お前は1年の時から同じクラスだったろ。
What the fetch?
この前だって3人で一緒に映画見に行ったじゃねえか。
What? You're telling me he went to a movie with you? And that she was there? What? I couldn't comprehend what the person that sounded like Misumi-kun was saying. He'd said that the demon girl and I had been in the same class since first year, and that the three of us had seen a movie together pretty recently. Pretty recently? But when exactly? What movie?
俺がお前とダチになったのだって、最初はリミに付き合わされたのがきっかけだったしな。
What the fetch?
俺と同じで、リミも物好きだからよ。
Yeah?
ニートのお前を気にかけてやってるのは、世界広しといえど、俺とリミぐらいだぜ。
Fair. It's a little mean, but I get it.
あ、それは言い過ぎか。
The words I heard on the other end of the call, not a single one of them felt real to me. I had absolutely no memory of any of it. I couldn't acknowledge that any of that had happened in the past. I just couldn't. It was all some story that the person who sounded like Misumi-kun had made up. It couldn't be my past. The past could only be established as truth if a person remembered it, so I don't remember it. It wasn't true. But no, hang on. He has memory issues. The Shogun incident proved that pretty definitively. He has this thing where he like shuts down and he's doing stuff almost maybe with a different personality. But that other personality only ever came out when interacting with, like, Rimi was her name? And so he's had this entire friend his whole life. He can't remember because anytime he's interacted with her has been with his other personality. That's insane if true. Utter insanity.
っていうか、リミってマジで女っ気ないよな。おっと、これはあいつには言うなよ。
君は誰だ？
おいおい、マジでおかしくなったか。俺のことまで忘れたわけか。ゲーのやりすぎ。
Unable to take it anymore, I hung up the phone. But listen to that. If you've forgotten even me too. Maybe he's just referring to Rimi, but like, does that mean that maybe he has a history of forgetting things? Like, he'll do stuff and then not remember it. My breathing had grown extremely heavy without me noticing. The sweat that had been beating on my forehead showed no sign of stopping. In fact, it was increasing. Long trails of sweat trickled down my entire body, starting from the face and ending at my feet.
たく、汗びっしょりだよ。
The demon girl, looking worried about me, calmly offered me a handkerchief. A cute, patternless vermilion handkerchief. There was a faint floral scent to it. Instead of taking it, I attempted to somehow maintain my composure and organize my thoughts about everything that was happening, but in the end, it didn't go too well. I was doubting anything and everything, causing all my thoughts to rapidly churn together into a chaotic whirlpool. Sighing in minor disappointment, the demon girl put away her handkerchief, and then, with a triumphant look at her face, she asked me a question.
で、大地はなんて？
She was acting like she already knew the answer. I couldn't... fetch me! Why am I clicking... I'm not meaning to do that! I couldn't afford to answer her. What was she? An ordinary classmate of mine or a monster? I had no idea. Maybe I was the crazy one? Taking the chat with the Shogun into consideration, I couldn't rule out the possibility that someone other than myself was controlling my body. Or maybe all my memories of that demon girl, the girl named Sakihata Rimi, had somehow gotten knocked right out of me due to some freak accident or something. At this point, I didn't know anything about myself for sure. Did I have amnesia? Was I sleepwalking? Could I be something else entirely?
大丈夫？体、 辛いならソファーで横になる？
The demon girl spoke to me kindly. Don't let your guard down. Anyone who acts nice to an otaku freak like me must have some kind of ulterior motive. I shook my head, putting my strong will to resist against the demon girl on full display, then using the same strength, I raised my head, sweat got in my eyes, blurring my vision. The demon girl's face was a lot closer than I had expected it to be. What color eyes were those?
なんで
なになに？
ここにいる？
ああ、ごめんね。勝手に入っちゃって。でも、ノックしてたんだよ。タクは全然出てきてくれないし、中でものすごい音が聞こえてくるしで、結構ハラハラしてたんだから。
Right. That's still not answering the question.
なんで
今度は何？
ここにいる？
No one asked what caused her to the trespass. Not my question was, what was her reason for coming here? If she'd come to kill me, she would have done it a long time ago, so why wasn't she doing anything?
ああ、ここに来た理由？ね。
The demon girl reached into her bag and pulled out a single sheet of paper.
はい。進路希望のプリント、持ってきてあげたの。
Oh, it's homework. I found myself taking it from her without really thinking. She wasn't lying. The piece of paper did have post-graduation aspirations written on it across the 3 blank spaces to write your answers. Was that it? Was that really all she'd come for?
帰ってよ。
I don't want anything to do with her. I don't want anything to do with her 3D with any 3D girls. This is a trap. Don't listen to her. This isn't reality. This is a game, one filled with bugs. There were way too many contradictions and didn't hold together as a proper story.
僕に関わらないでよ。
If you don't intend to kill me, then just leave me alone. I am me. Some me that isn't me may be friends with Sakihata Rimi, but that has nothing to do with the current me. Cradling my head, I closed myself off completely. I kept trembling and trembling, envisioning that the girl known as Sakihata Rimi wasn't there anymore. Not long after, I heard the sound of the door open, tell me that the demon girl had left. That's sad. Gosh darn it, I want to know, but it's a sad way to part. Dang, dude. What the fetch? Alright, so you had some kind of transition there. Let's go a little longer. In the midst of the pitch black room, the pale light of the PC monitor cut through the darkness. Pictured on the screen was a Sierra Town screensaver from Blood 2 and the animation. While there had been a girl by the name of Sakihata Rimi present in the container half a day prior, the only figure that remained was the container's owner, Nishijo Takumi. It was already 5 in the morning. In Takumi's daily life, he would play online games until dawn, then collapse onto the sofa once he could not keep his eyes open any longer. Even now, Takumi was asleep on the couch, twisting in a seemingly uncomfortable position. He never used his bed for sleep. He did indeed have a proper bed, but it was already occupied by manga, CDs, and other random piled-up media. He could never be bothered to tidy up, so his bed had effectively been repurposed as his storeroom. Ever since then, he had utilized his 2-person sofa as his one and only place to sleep. A pained moan escaped from Takumi's lips. Perhaps he was having a nightmare. His entire body was perspiring and his closed eyelids twitched and trembled. His expression was wrapped in agony, and he was tossing and turning so frequently he came very close to falling off the couch. Right before he did, however, his eyes suddenly inexplicably shot open as if facing the ceiling. They were bloodshot and his eyeballs were frantically convulsing. Still in that state, without blinking even a single time, he rose from the sofa. He slowly staggered toward the PC. Without sitting down, he moved the mouse as he stood before the desk, the screensaver disappearing and his desktop showing itself. The pale light of the monitor shone in Takumi's face, illuminating his horrifyingly vacant expression. His body swayed back and forth, and his mouth hung slightly ajar, drool seeping down his chin. Oh gosh. His current state was a textbook example of sleepwalking. The delirious boy lurched the web browser, then opened that channel. His movements itself were languid and slow, but he showed no hesitation in selecting a thread from the board related to NewGen. The board listed a total of around 60 threads, and Takumi slowly opened each of them one by one. And then, with his eyes remaining glued to the monitor, he began to type. He repeated this action for each and every thread. His posts were not particularly long, only hosting a few characters each, but they all composed the exact same sentence. To be continued. Whose eyes are those eyes? And it's Shogun. It's the Shogun account. Oh, man. Yep, let's go back to the hospital. That seems like a good idea. Yeah, that's a great place. All right, we're gonna end here for today. Oh boy, what the fish is happening? That's like the definition of this game, right? Like, what is happening? But the fact that she showed up and that apparently he's known her since like first grade, and that he's yet seemingly has no memory of her at all. That's terrifying. Holy crap, could you imagine that actually happening in your life? That would be the most horrific thing ever. I'd be petrified with fear. Oh gosh, like, maybe that's just me, but like, I think everyone's afraid of this, but to me, it's like one of the most existential horrors you could ever have. Just not being able to trust your mind. To have evidence presented to you that things have happened that you have no recollection of, but you clearly participated in. To forget who people are in your life. Like the idea of dementia is horrifying to me. Like, it's hard watching someone go through it whom you know, but I think going through it yourself is like the most terrifying thing I can even conceive of. And then you also have these ideas, like, it's happened in a lot of media. I specifically remember it happened in Star Trek Next Generation and Buffy the Vampire Slayer specifically. They both left such terrible impressions on me, and it was an episode that like coincided with like the person is doing an activity and then they encounter a monster or a situation where they suddenly fall what feels like out of reality and into a dream space, but the dream space is them being in a like sanatorium, like a psych ward, and in the psych ward they are being approached by people whom they think they know from reality, who are telling them, hey, I'm a doctor, you've been in this psych ward for years, we've been trying a new treatment and we think it's working, or it's bringing you out of like a stupor of like being lost to consciousness, and like we're trying to like help you. And they're trying to desperately like convince them that the life that they've known up until that point is all a lie, a fiction that they came up with in their own head. And like, they're presented with like information that seems real, and then they bounce back into that reality, and like the things that they're being told seem to corroborate what's going on in that dimension, but it feels wrong, and it's like, what's going on? And then like the worst part of the episode is that both of them end with an implication that it might actually all be a delusion. It leaves it ambiguous for you as the viewer, and that just makes me want to die inside, because that would be horrific. It's the worst thing I can think of. And it feels like he's what Taku's going through right now, and it's freaking me out. Oh, what a nightmare. I can't wait to figure out what the heck's going on. Wow. That was a lot of twists I wasn't expecting. And I'm curious to see what's going to happen next, but we'll have to wait till next week. This is already a long episode, but thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed yourself today. I certainly enjoyed making this video, even if it's getting me into an existential crisis. It's fine. It's all right. We're good. Thank you so much for being a part of it, though. It means the world to me that you're here and that you spend your time like sharing these moments with me. And I hope that I can continue to make good content that keeps you coming back for more. But until then, let's just ride out the rest of this week. And next week when we do this next episode, that should be the new year, right? That'll be crazy. So I hope you have a great end of your year. I hope that you're able to spend time with friends or family. And even if you can't for whatever reason, that you can, do something enjoyable for the new year. In fact, I'm kind of thinking, because I'm on the night schedule, I think I might try and go out and watch the sunrise. Like, just go sit at the top, at the top of a hill and just watch the sun come up. It could be really fun, very pretty. Something I've never really done because I've never been a morning person, but it would be an enjoyable experience, I think. Yeah, so we'll see. Anyway, hope you have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week, and that you can, share something interesting you thought about the episode. No spoilers, but I'd love to read your thoughts. Especially thank you to the patrons and members who support me directly through YouTube membership or your Patreon. Remember, anything that I get through that is always going to go directly into the channel, trying to make things better. But ultimately, I'm just really grateful for you. I hope that I can continue to deliver content that makes it worth your while. And then to anybody who's just watching the video, thank you so much. Like, the support of just watching videos from a channel, for a channel especially of my size, it means everything. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. And until the next video you watch me ever see me in next, I'll see you there.